Okay, well, hey, without further ado, I want to welcome everybody to this webinar hosted by AVER, how universities and colleges can deliver the best video distance learning experiences. I'm actually joined by some AVER folks, as well as a really great customer and expert in the field for you today. We're just going to kind of get started here. Today's agenda, you're going to hear from our AVER expert and our customer from Indiana State University, their distance learning technology specialist, on your options and best practices as you deal with distance learning. So your trends and considerations for distance learning, how some of the AVER auto tracking and PTZ live streaming cameras can help you simplify this video experience, this process you're going through probably right now, or have been going through, probably in the middle of right now. And then we'll hear directly from our customer on how he has built his distance learning origination rooms and how he's dealing with distance learning across the school. And then we'll also open it up for questions and answers. So again, I'm your host. I'm James Salter, Marketing Director for AVER. In the Pro AV space, I focus on education in the K-12 all the way to higher ed space, as well as other professional audiovisual markets. I'm joined by Rich Moscoso. Rich is our AV field engineer for Pro AV. He's the expert guy you'll see in a lot of our demos and webinars that he does specifically. So Rich is going to be going you through an overview of AVER and how we approach distance learning with these cameras and give you an actual live demo as well. And then we're also joined by Nicholas Abahi. Nick is the distance learning technology specialist with Indiana State University. So gentlemen, welcome to the webinar. Thank you very much.
Thanks, James. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, let's go hear something real quick. This is not shocking information for you guys. If you're involved directly with a university, if you're in charge of their technology, if you're someone with a vested interest, whether you're a reseller or a technology provider, or you're actually in the front lines like Nick is, trying to figure this stuff out, it's made everything obviously very cloudy, very difficult. Not just from the perspective of what do you do about distance learning, but all these other issues you have to answer. Students are obviously looking to go back, but there's also concerns about, can you do this safely? Are they going to be on campus for classes? Are they going to be in a hybrid mode? What is the best approach to all this stuff? There's a very interesting study, and I'm actually going to cite one thing from it here, but there's actually a few different interesting studies. I found a couple that I thought were really pertinent. One was from McKinsey, and it talks about the impact this is going to have on students. And part of it is their willingness to either delay their education or to go to a different school. You're probably all experiencing some different spikes or lows in enrollment figures for the fall. But it looks like a lot of them, it's the bottom left here, 15% of students are very likely to defer by at least a semester, and up to 45% are very likely to look for a different school. And of course, they want to go away to a different school. They want to experience life away from home. A lot of them now are opting to either pause that or choose a school closer to home. And part of that issue we will find is just the quality of distance learning education is something that's a concern. So being able to provide the best you can right now to support a long-term distance learning process, as well as the short term of providing a very good experience for folks, is really important. So again, I'll share you some of the sources for these studies that you might find interesting. I thought the McKinsey one was excellent. It's actually on the web now, so easy to get to, and you can find out a little bit more about what your students are thinking. I'm going to start here with a quick poll question here, and you can see your screens here. I'm just going to launch this now here too. This is a real general open-ended question. I'm not going to be sharing this information across for the attendees, so don't worry about that. But I wanted to give you a chance just to kind of rate your school's readiness to deliver, top quality distance learning experiences this fall. And it's very subjective. Are you absolutely prepared? Are you not quite there yet, but you think you will be by first classes? Or some of you, that's coming up right away. You're going to need a lot more time or help. We don't have any solutions in place, and I think there's going to be a good mix across the board with whatever we got here. Nick, I won't make you answer that question because I think you're probably, I don't know if you're completely ready, but I think you're probably pretty close. Okay, I'll just give it another few seconds here. Yeah, it's interesting. I hear questions all across the board. So guys, that's why I was kind of interested in your responses. So looks like here we've got the top choices. We need much more time to get our entire school ready, 67%, and we aren't there yet, but we'll be by first classes. That sounds pretty cool. That sounds actually very honest. Thank you for your honesty. I'm actually not too surprised by those answers. I'd be shocked if 100% was we were absolutely prepared in all aspects. There's nobody can be prepared for all of this. And when we get to talk to Nick, again, Nick's been doing this for quite a while, just building his distance learning rooms, distance origination rooms. I'm sure he's got very good equipment and everything set up for all those rooms. The problem is the whole university needs to be a distance origination room right now, or at least a good chunk of it does. So that's the issue you're all going to have to deal with. So, okay, cool. Let's go back to the results. So you guys can see the results here. I just mentioned 67% of you need much more time. Some of you need a little bit more, but you'll be ready by first classes. Okay. So let's go back here. I'm going to reshare my screen. And we're going to pass this off to Rich. Rich is going to take you through a little overview of a few things with AVER, how we kind of approach lecture rooms, how we kind of provide a set of solutions for video, distance learning, with our tracking cameras. So, Rich, you ready to go? Can you take it away?
Yeah, thanks, James. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone. My name is Rich Moscoso. I'm based here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Our main headquarters in the U.S. is in Fremont, California. So we have our U.S. HQ in Fremont, California, and then we have remote people like myself on the East Coast as well as the West Coast. But as far as what we see as far as setting up a room, right, with our cameras, specifically the new TR3 cameras, the TR311HN, which I actually have one connected here that's actually being used on this Zoom call. It's actually a TR313, but everything about it, more or less, a couple little details, is the same as the TR311HN. So what we're seeing is that, so there's a couple different ways, a couple different configurations that you can do this, right? So the cameras are PoE. They support PoE+. So you could actually, you can hang the camera from the ceiling, and then it could be as simple as a 2-cable installation, one being the USB connection from the camera to your technology, and then the other cable would be the network. But also, since it supports PoE Plus, then you can supply power to the camera as well. So here in this graph, in the slide, we have the camera it can be mounted from the ceiling, inverted, not a problem, and then also can be mounted on a tripod, sort of in the rear of the room, or on a shelf, somewhere around 6 feet in height. So you have a good view of the instructor. So again, that can be connected via USB or PoE Plus to your computer, and then the computer, your technology picks that up as a camera, and that will integrate flawlessly with Teams, Zoom, what have you, Schoology, Panopto, Echo 360, Kaltura, etc. So this graph also shows there's a connection for audio. So that question comes up a lot. So some of the higher distance learning or higher ed already has the audio figured out, but some of the spaces maybe not, right? Maybe there's a room that you didn't think you would use for distance learning. Now there's a demand for distance learning, so you have the space you want to create. So it could be as simple as finding a USB type microphone, like the MXL here that we have shown, where you just plug in via USB and that'll capture the audio as the teacher is walking back and forth. I think we can go to the next slide. You have control of that, or do I? Okay. So with these cameras, the new TR series, they all come equipped with 2 tracking modes. So presenter mode, which is actually the mode I'm in currently, it will follow the presenter. It will keep me centered to the frame, centered to the camera, right, as you walk around. And also, if I were to, come down here and take a seat, it'll follow me down. If I stand up, it'll follow me up. So that's presenter mode. It keeps me centered to the frame. The second mode is zone tracking. In zone tracking, you can create 4 different zones, essentially 4 presets. So preset 6, preset 7, preset 8, and preset 9 are reserved for zone tracking. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
So there's a couple ways to enable the tracking. This is showing from the web interface, which I'll show here in a second. But you can also enable the tracking via the camera remote that comes supplied with the camera. So there's a little button here that says tracking off, and a button here that says tracking off. So it makes it really handy and quick to enable disable from the camera remote. So there is sorry, James, if we could go back real quick. So there is a selection for full body or half body. I'll go into detail on that during the demo. Next slide, please. This kind of shows a little more detail on the zone tracking. Again, we can create anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 different zones. And this slide just shows like zone 1 or preset 6, zone 2, preset 7, and then zone 3, preset 8. So where the content's more important. So what it does is it senses my motion as I walk from one area to the next. Next slide, please. Also, AVER does have free software. We have 2 different software packages. One is called Easy Live. It can be run on Windows or Mac environment. It gives you the ability to annotate, record video, live stream, and capture images. It's a real straightforward and basic software, but it really makes it easy for the instructor to just either take down notes or the ability to stream out to a streaming platform. And then we also have the AVER PTZ Management Software. It's currently Windows-based only, and you can manage up to 128 cameras per console. What this software does, it gives you the ability to quickly, at a glance, kind of check the status of the cameras that you have on your network. So it could be on your floor, in your building, what have you. You can check the status if they're on, the firmware version. You can actually click on the camera and you can control it via the software. You can also have create admin type privileges for a user to log in, and user type privileges where they have the ability to log in, but not the ability to, say, add a device, delete a device, or edit a device. And I'll show that here quickly as well.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead, James. So why AVER? Top 10 reasons. James, was I going to discuss this? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, you know what? I can take this on too. I think because we're going to actually have you do a demo in a second. So yeah, I mean, I can talk to some of this as well. So thank you, Rich, for that overview. And then we look forward to seeing the actual demo in place. I know Nick actually also has the AVER camera set up too. So when you see him doing his thing, it's also an AVER camera. But just a kind of reminder, just a quick thing, why we think AVER is a really good opportunity for everyone to look at and consider our auto tracking cameras is obviously now in the day and age of COVID, not having to have any kind of lanyard is always nice because those things tend to go missing, or any kind of marker. But using the tracking technology, it's pretty easy when you have a mask on. It doesn't matter. It's reading your body or your half body. So you can feel or walk around, especially in those days coming up ahead where there may be hybrid mode. You may actually have students in the class, maybe it's only half or a third of the class, and then a professor or lecturer is up presenting, they can easily wear a mask. It'll follow them. It doesn't matter. You can take it on or off. It doesn't matter. It's just looking at the half body. The other thing about it is, again, we all like stuff that just kind of like that easy button. You set it and forget it. It just works in the background. You literally don't need a professional camera operator going to every single room or in a central command center to look and try and do many lectures at once. You can actually have it done at each level, and you can still have central controls. But the nice thing is, once it's turned on and it's tracking that person, it's just gonna work in the background. The camera will do the work. Also have up to 30 times optical zoom with these cameras. So we have a number of different cameras for options. Up to 30 times optical zoom. It's great clarity, very crystal clear picture. Depending on where your camera is located in the room, if it's mounted up top ceiling, you can put this thing back, I don't know, 50 feet or more, still have pretty nice clarity. 256 different presets. For cameras, using the existing stuff in your lecture halls, whether you have interactive flat panels, projectors, monitors, those types of things, you can use them with this. It integrates with other devices you may have in classrooms, such as amplification, sound systems. Again, we touched on how it works with pretty much every single video conferencing platform. So the more popular ones people are using right now in a pinch, and then there's the kind of the more hardcore ones that you'll use to kind of share and post your content. Our camera works with pretty much everything. We have a very different warranty. It's extremely generous. It's called AverCare. It's 3-year warranty, covers the camera, but also advanced replacement and free RMA shipping. The turnaround is actually 24-hour replacement for the equipment. And then Rich also touched on the 2 different software packages that we also include for free, the Easy Live and then the PTZ Management Software. What we're going to do now is we're going to pass it on to Rich, and I'm going to stop sharing here. He's actually going to do a AI auto tracking camera demo, and I'm going to pass it on to Rich. Rich, take it away. You can kind of show people directly how you've got this thing set up and how it works, how it tracks.
Sure. Okay, so there are essentially 5 different models of the TR3 series, but here on our website, we have shown the TR311HN. As mentioned before, it offers people tracking and zone tracking, also wide dynamic range, tele light on most of the models, and again, just a quick review of what the front and the back looks like. So with these new cameras, the tracking algorithm has changed. So what it's looking for is a human outline, and that's what it's tracking. So it doesn't matter what's in the background. As soon as the camera latches onto a person, it will follow that person around. So if someone were to walk in front of me, it will stay latched onto me unless I decide to switch who the camera should track. So in presenter mode, right, we talked about presenter mode. So there's click to track. So this is where, say you have a special guest speaker, the camera's tracking me around. Maybe I walk over here for another minute or so, give a brief introduction to the guest speaker. They walk up, and then via the remote, I can quickly just hit the button that's switch. Excuse me, we're here on the remote control. There's a button here that's called, that shows switch, and it's just switching who the camera should follow. Likewise, via the web UI, which I'll show you here in a second, you can just click on that person and it will just begin tracking that person. So that's presenter mode, and again, zone mode, the 4 different zones. So once the camera's configured for the network, you would type in that IP address of the camera in a Chrome browser or IE11 browser. Edge and Safari are not supported, but if you're using a Mac, the recommendation is to install Chrome for Mac. So this is the landing page. You'll notice there's a tab here for tracking, and it's currently enabled. I will disable it from the remote here. I'll just disable it here, and the UI here will update here momentarily. So, but as far as the configuration, I'll just kind of breeze over this. So again, we have the presenter mode and the zone mode. There's a sensitivity setting here for if the camera is following me around, I walk out of the room, the camera sits there. I'm sorry, that's the return to tracking point. So the tracking point, this is measured in seconds. So the camera's following me around, I walk out of the room, it waits there. After 5 seconds, if it doesn't sense me walk back in or someone else walk in, it will just return to preset number 1 automatically. So that view could be the teacher's or the instructor's podium or the desk, whatever makes sense for that room. And then the sensitivity, it's either a 1, a 2, or a 3, and that's used simply to increase or decrease the sensitivity of the tracking, right? So it's looking for that human outline. Say the lights are a little low, then maybe we need to crank this up to 3. Maybe there's something in the background with more like human anatomy class. Maybe we want to put this at 1. So it's a 1, 2, or 3. I'm good at the setting at 2. So people size. This set, I'm set to half. There's a table here in front of me, so really you're only seeing from waist to my head. So we're telling the camera, well, this is all you really need to concentrate on. If say there were a little riser here, a 2-foot riser, 3-foot riser, and you had the camera was mounted where you had full view of the person, of the individual walking back and forth, then that's where we would put this at full. So you want to grab 100% of the person from head to toes. And then half is just basically waist up. And that's what that setting's for. Really basic, straightforward. So, and then here, just make sure you're in presenter mode and hit tracking. I'll click this click to track. So remember the red box in the graphic. So this is what it's going to be tracking. So that's everywhere I go, it's going to follow. And if someone else were to walk up, then a blue box would appear, and you can either from the web UI select the person or via the remote, just select switch. Turn that off. I mentioned before about zone where you're creating these presets. So again, preset 6 is this, 7, 8. Just to give you some dimension, my room is 13 feet wide, and I am standing roughly 5.5, 6 feet from the camera. So I'm pretty close to the camera. But I created these presets. This could be your good morning student shot. This is a whiteboard or interactive flat panel of things we're going to discuss for the day. Preset 7 I set up. Again, you have controls here, pan, tilt, zoom. Create what makes sense for that scene or for that preset. So this preset 7 could be my learning station, right? We're going to discuss something more in detail. And again, the content's more important. And then this preset number 8, maybe there's a whiteboard here, or we're going to discuss, it's Art Appreciation Week. So we brought some art in to take a deeper dive into a look at that art. So that's what these presets are for zone. And then we can create either 2, 3, or 4 different blocks. So again, there's a sensitivity control and then a time to return to tracking point. This is in seconds, right? So I'm set currently for 5 seconds. If it doesn't sense anything, it will return to preset number 6 after 5 seconds. So, and that's pretty much it. So you just have to come here to the tracking control here, go to zone, and then enable. And it kicks over to here. It's looking for my outline. Now, as I walk over here, it picks that up. And, it takes a closer look at, maybe we're going to discuss colors in English and Spanish, whatever the case may be. And then as I walk over here, it kicks over and, art appreciation. We're going to talk a little bit more about the content, right? Or maybe a project on leadership. So again, the camera's not trying to keep me centered. It's just kicking over to a preset. And I can be anywhere in this, in this frame. I could walk out of frame, and if it doesn't pick me up, it'll kick over to preset 6. But since it still senses me, it's still staying in the spot. As I walk out, it senses my motion over to this preset and then kicks into here. So speaking of presets, I'll turn this off. We have the camera support up to 256 presets. 10 are available via the camera remote. And 20 are available via the web UI, but you could also, I should say quickly, like quick access, right? 20 presets here, but you could also save some presets, right, to say, 100. You could save it, and then you would just have to recall it here, 100. But I have this preset number 3 configured. So for the optical zoom, this camera has 12x optical zoom. So to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like quality-wise, you really have the ability to zoom in on something and perhaps share that information to the class, whatever it might be, right? So it's an important thing to consider, the optical zoom of the camera that you're going to select. And then that's my preset number 1. So that's pretty much it, what I wanted to cover on the camera side. Just real quick on the PTZ Management Software, and then I'll hand it back over. So again, with this PTZ Management Software, you can create admin users or user rights. So in my case, I'm an admin, and it will pull this up here. And it's going to kind of go out on the network and see what cameras are available. So at a glance, you can have this view of 16 cameras at a time, 4 cameras at a time. See if you have control of that camera, right? Say room 310. Do I have control of that? Yes, no, maybe. And say yes, looks good from here. You can also check on the IP information of that camera, the status, if it's on or off. Sorry, management here gives you the ability to check the firmware version that's on that camera. So say if 6 months down the road, some improvements have been made to the camera or additional options, right? Then you could push out that firmware from here with a firmware update. Again, I'm an admin, so I have access to this. A user would not have access to this. So, and here you can set up different users, right? Admin type or user type. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And I'll exit out of here and here.
Thanks, Rich.
Sure, thanks.
I want to also mention everybody too, as far as if Rich could have face coverings on, his mask on, he can walk across. It's still going to actually track him, as I mentioned before. So the nice thing about the cameras with the advanced algorithms now, tracking half or full body, obviously still supporting some zone tracking. You have a bunch of different good options to track speakers or content. I'm about to pass it on. Hold on a second here. I'm about to pass it on to Nick. Just 1 second here. And I want to thank Rich again for this demo. And now I want to welcome Nick Abahi to our webinar. Nick, you've been standing patiently in the background here. I want to welcome you to our webinar here, and I know we're really looking forward to hearing you and learning from you what you've been doing with Indiana State since 2008, with your distance learning strategies. So looking forward to hearing from you. So take it away.
All right, well, thank you. I'm Nick Abahi. I'm here as the Distance Technology Specialist at Indiana State University. When I inherited this position back in 2008, we had a series of distance origination rooms that were used for mostly just recording and to a very limited extent broadcasting to satellite locations. But these were essentially TV studios. Lots of broadcast equipment, required technicians controlling and running everything for the faculty. And as the years progressed, it didn't take many. In about 2010, we started implementing more automated systems. We're able to put in touch panel controls, and then had started with some of the pendant tracking systems, which were met with limited results. Infrared light was a big issue for us with any rooms that had windows, and clothing and long hair could even be a problem with some of those as well. So last year we started piloting with the TR530 in one of our rooms that you can see in the slide here. And it works so well, we've rolled it out to our other studios that we have on campus. And these classrooms are designed as in-room lecture classrooms that also have array microphones, have the tracking camera for the faculty, as well as a PTZ cam they can use if they're having guest lectures from afar and put on the student body in the class. The rooms are very flexible, lots of movable furniture. The only thing not on wheels is the instructor's podium. But then we've gotten our technicians out of the rooms and pretty much automated the entire process through a touch panel. And for a lot of faculty, they just come in, get things started, have the tracking kick on automatically, and then they teach. They don't worry so much about dealing with the technology, but they can be running a Zoom room, or we use another software called Uja, and we used to use Blackboard Collaborate. But any of these platforms plug in, have your students coming in from a distance, be able to have them interact with the class as if they're part of it. They can hear the other people asking questions in the room. You don't get that kind of strange, when the microphone is localized to the instructor, you hear them talking or responding to questions, but not necessarily what the context or everything that's going on. So the support works really well for that side of things. Just as kind of a brief view of the room itself, you can see the seating. This is one of our smaller spaces that sat up to 32 students. Most importantly, on the back wall, you see the monitors that reflect both the camera that we're seeing as well as the display on the screen. This allows the faculty member to move around, be able to teach the class more naturally without having to keep coming back to the podium or concentrate on the content that's on the little monitor that's right there. Now, I kind of need this for reading things like the chat that pops up, but if I'm giving a lecture, showing a PowerPoint using a clicker, I'm not fixed to one position. And so with this kind of setup, it makes it a little easier for us to be able to work with the faculty and give them support without dedicating a single person to the room. And as they're in and they're moving around or they're teaching, they stay in that frame and can then teach more naturally without worrying about the technology getting between them and the students, either in the room with them or the ones that are at a distance. That's most of it in a nutshell.
That's great, Nick. I'm going to open it up for questions for people on chat. If you want to ask Nick or Rich or even myself any questions, I know there's been some active questions on chat right now, but if you have any specific ones for Nick, I know he'd be really happy to answer them. Nick, right now I'm going to ask you one. You're using the TR530 in that room, is that correct?
That is correct.
So the TR530, now you mentioned the other day, this actually does work even with a mask on. It's actually a different type of tracking. It's same kind of method of tracking without having to use a marker, but it actually uses more facial recognition with the algorithms instead of the full or half body, but it still works for you. With
Yeah, it didn't do so well as I walked through that depth sensing into the room, but up and back and forth on the front of the room, it seemed to hold on very well as I was just kind of walking around talking and then, returning to my space.
Okay, great. And I had one more question because I know we got some coming in for chat now. I'm going to ask one more. You've been an expert in doing this for quite a while. I think your distance origination rooms are you've built those up over time with trial and error with the right equipment, the wrong equipment. How are you dealing now with all these other classrooms you might have to outfit or at least have some sort of a hybrid mode of some equipment to make them useful as well for distance learning? Are you dealing with that as well?
Helping out our classroom services group with that, and a lot of our rooms had been set up for audio recording with the content in the room, so for our lecture capture systems, so all asynchronous, and the nice change is, as things have developed, platforms like Zoom have gotten a whole lot better on the echo cancellation that's built into the software. So we've been able to implement that capability in a lot of the regular lecture halls. Now, most of them are still lacking on the video support, but faculty can still lecture, they can get that broadcast out to students in real time. So as we're experiencing more and more classes that are on a hybrid style, where some are in the room on a Tuesday, but the other half's in on a Thursday, then if they're participating at a distance, they can still, to a limited amount, interact with the class itself.
Gotcha. Okay, well, you actually do have some questions on chat. So actually for both you, Nick, and you, Rich. So the first one might be better suited for Rich or even Andy, who's our Director of Product Management. Does the camera need to be a certain distance away to track a person? And Rich, you're on mute.
Yeah, I think the recommendation for the new TR series is anywhere from 10 to 12 feet minimum. So I'm like at 6 feet, so I'm really snug up. But anywhere from 10 feet out. Okay.
And then the other question, and Nick can also take some of these as well if he wants to. But will the camera have issues tracking people in front of windows, or does anything cause issues? So I guess he's looking for things that are distracting. Richie, can you answer that one? You're on mute.
I'm sorry, which one, the USB?
Will the camera have any issues tracking people in front of windows, or does anything cause issues? He's basically looking for, are you going to get reflections? You're going to get distractions with other people?
Sure. Yeah, no, not that the test. I mean, obviously, if I'm standing in front of a mirror or there's, glass or something, and my reflections in that, the camera could potentially pick up another body in the frame, right? But again, it's going to focus on me with the human outline. So we haven't seen really any issues with glare in that sense, or even with people walking by. Again, it won't switch until you tell it to switch.
Right. Yeah, I've seen some of that as well. We've seen that question before, and it's actually some of it's on our website as well. The nice thing about it is the tracking is it's not going to just randomly get distracted and pick up a new speaker. It's basically looking for you, depending on how you set it up, half body or full body, or if it's the previous generation, it'll be facial recognition. It's not going to be distracted by somebody else coming into that. That's the beauty of it. Unless you have different things set up with zones and that, it'll stay on the speaker. This is a question specifically for you, Nick. Are the cameras extended at Indiana State with USB and switching them with Crestron?
Well, we're an Extron group here, so Crestron, I couldn't really tell you on that side of it. And we're running everything off of HDMI through a matrix switcher that's here in the room. So it breaks out to USB from our switcher. And we're running that into the podium PC for the faculty in the room. Or if I'd come in and set up my laptop earlier, I could pick up a USB that's on my desktop, and it feeds both the video from the cameras as well as the microphone audio into the laptop right there.
Great. I don't see a question. I see a comment from Erica. Erica, you're hoping that we produce a firmware update that would track the top quarter or top third body in a tight shot. I think it would open up a different educational market. We can get that tight shot tracking. Well, we have our Director of Product Management on here. We can take that under consideration with what we have there. These new cameras, the new TR series that are the 311HN, the 311, the 313, and then eventually the 333. Those are all using that new AI auto tracking that Rich was kind of demoing, and we have only just started to release those. So yeah, there's things we could look at potentially with different with tracking. So thank you for the suggestion.
Hey James, see if you can take that. So I think when you mentioned quarter or 1/3 body shot, I think the TR530, because of the fact that it's doing face tracking and not necessarily human form detection, is actually if you look at your face could be about that 1/4, right, size. So if you want a tighter shot and something that would be more zoomed in, I would go with the TR 530 series or the TR 320 with a 22 times zoom. So hopefully
Yeah.
that answers the question.
That's a good option too, Andy. Thank you. Yeah, I think that would work. We have another question here for Nick. Which brand USB extenders are you using? You're on mute, Nick.
Whoops, my bad. We're not using extended USB. Everything is run either over twisted pair for our network control, or we're running straight HDMI. And in some cases, we've got some serial control, but we've stayed away from the USB on the long distances in a lot of these rooms. Part of that is due to the progression over time. This was built on like I said, an old broadcast video system. So as we've stepped up, we replace components every couple of years or upgrades, and got this away from having an entire control room and just put it into a small cabinet and a touch panel. Or actually, I can run the whole room right from my cell phone just by hitting a QR code that's on the screen as well. And but the USB side of it, we've kind of stayed away from that.
Thank you. I got one question for Nick. I'm going to ask you another one here. What is the biggest challenge right now for you? Like you're in that role. There's a number of people that registered and online that are, kind of a similar position as you. They're either the, technology director, the coordinator, they're the person that's in charge of this distance learning issue now. What's the biggest challenge that you're seeing right now?
Well, for any of the faculty that are not already comfortable with teaching in a distance kind of environment, this is a very difficult transition. Especially when we first hit things in March and kind of went with a whatever we can make work sort of approach to get people going. It's not the same. Even teaching in one of these rooms that tries to replicate as much of the face-to-face interaction and then blend in that distance side, allowing for more of a lecture-based and interactive from the audience course, it takes a whole lot more practice and skill to deal with students to be able to convey the same information that you would normally do when you're holding a lecture. And even with Zoom and its ability to put 49 windows on the screen at times, that feedback, the facial expression, the immediate response from students isn't the same as it would be in your traditional class setting. So it's really a lot to work with and help people utilize the tools that we have, whether it's video conferencing, lecture capture, interactive quizzing, or the tools that are in our learning management system, how we can best utilize those, help the faculty get the information out to the students, and keep it an engaging learning process so that they're not losing out like they were when we were unprepared for things.
All right. Well, listen, I don't see any new questions coming in from our Q&A or from our chat. What I'm going to do now is just kind of say thank you to the gentlemen for your time presenting today. If you have any more questions for us, you can actually contact us all individually directly. So here's our emails here on the top left. Myself, Rich, Nick has been kind enough to say he'll answer some questions too, and maybe share some more stories again with what you've been doing the last, almost 10 plus years in building these rooms. If you want to directly connect with the sales team here at AVER, you can use the proavsales.usa@aver.com. There's a ton more information on our website, obviously, on details of the products, data sheets, specs. There's lots of how-to videos. You'll see Rich in some of those as well. And if you want to follow up with some of the latest and greatest with us with updates, press releases, product announcements, our social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn are kind of the places to go there too. So without further ado, I want to say thank you everyone for spending time in joining us today. To Rich and to Nick again, thank you so much for your time and your presentations. And again, we'll be submitting a recording of this to everybody registered for the webinar. And I'll share with you some more links on some of that research I referenced earlier. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and that concludes today's webinar. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Nick. Thanks,
Thank you,
James.
guys.
Thanks, Andy. Take care.
Bye-bye.